of the family. As you know, from that day on, I was always told I was weird and that this was demonic, and be growing up in a
Right.
heavily religious household. They started to indoctrinate me with their religious beliefs, and it just didn't
Mm-hmm.
make sense to me. So, um, it wasn't until maybe years later, at the age of 16, that I started yearning for knowledge. So, I started reading Plato's Republic, Socrates, Pythagoras, and I even got into the 18th century philosophy.
Hmm.
My favorite one of all of the 18th century philosophers was no other than Friedrich Schiller, who was a big proponent when it came to self autonomy, independence, and sovereignty. And I was always about that. So I started exploring metaphysics. I started reading about the esoteric knowledge, what they call the secret knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
I learned about secret societies when I was only 16, 17 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, and so all that just kind of motivated me and compelled me to want to write a book about the secret history of the world based on the battle between the two brotherhoods. You have the Luciferian Babylonian Brotherhood, which are what we call today Cabal,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have the Melchizedek Great White Brotherhood and Sisterhood of Light, the Brotherhood of the Quest. That actually resurfaced during medieval times, at the peak of the Dark Ages, right through the Renaissance. People like Galileo Galilei,
Mm-hmm.
Giordano Brunelleschi, I believe, Giordano Bruno, um, Filippo Brunelleschi. I'm sorry, Giordano Bruno, Michelangelo. All these people were members of the original, you could say, Brotherhood of Light. And so I wrote The Secret Government at the age of 21. Well, it took me about 2 or 3 years to finalize it. So I think I didn't publish it until I was 24. So that's when I first published my first book. And I'm planning on doing a second edition and releasing it because it's all about what everyone's talking about these days. The truth about how the entire world is being run by these psychopaths, and how every event has always been influenced by these
Mm-hmm.
psychopaths, and how they are really the true, terrorists and stuff. And then later on in life, as I started downloading information from what I call my galactic self, I started discovering that this whole war between good and evil was actually a translation of a greater war that's been going on in our galaxy for millions of years,
Wow.
between what I call the positive ETs, mainly those that are associated with the Lyran system, and of course, the negative ETs that come from the
Right.
star system of Rigel and Alpha Draconis, which what we call the Draconians and stuff, and how this full-out galactic war involved, many, many different worlds and solar systems, and Star Wars was real. And I believe that George Lucas drew from this ancient history of our own galaxy to kind of rewrite things in his own way when he wrote Star Wars. But he wrote it according, describing it down to the T. The good guys are the Jedi's, represented by the great blue star of Sirius, um, is is depicted in the movie Star Wars as the blue shield, right? The Jedi's. And then the red is represented by the um, animosity and service to self mentality, which is again exemplified by the Sith Lords, right? Which is the red
Right.
shield, and that comes from those that suffer from a high concentration of draconian reptilian genetics. So it was all there in the movie, kind of in a metaphor way, but in my book, I was able to kind of like describe, in greater detail the different events that took place that led to the real Star Wars in the history of our galaxy.
Do you feel like maybe that's why so many people, I mean, so many people are drawn to this? I mean, other than just being very entertaining, but do you feel like maybe that's one reason we're drawn to Star Wars so much, where it almost feels real to us?
Yeah, the memories are stored within our DNA, and so
Yeah.
due to this great awakening that is being, um, you could say, triggered by the CMEs that are coming in from the great central sun of our galaxy, a lot of us are starting to remember that. So it resonates with a lot of us, galactic history, cosmic history. Of course, somebody that is a non-star seed would look at this and consider it sci-fi, but not to the people that are, mentally advanced, who
Right.
have that inner understanding of things. It's like second nature to us to hear about the Orion Wars, the Lyran Wars, the wars that took place during the times of Atlantis, the battle
Yeah.
between the sky gods, right, as recorded in these ancient manuscripts. It's all related to the cosmic wars.
How can we, from your research, study, and just knowledge, how can we be so spiritually a spiritual being and have so many lives that we've lived, and be so connected? I mean, I feel many times we're disconnected from the universe just because of everything going on around us, but such a spiritual beings, but yet so destructive and so war hungry. There's like this good angel, bad devil angel on each side of our shoulders. From your experience, why are we so torn between the two?
Well, I think that a lot of that has to do with the programming that we all that is being forced upon us from the moment we were born.
Hmm.
And because, originally as children, we don't see, differences. We don't even
Right.
see, we don't think negatively. We don't think about deliberately hurting somebody. We see things we're still innocent in
Right.
that regard. So I think that it has a lot to do with the heavy programming that is forced upon us from an early age, beginning with our parents. Words have power, so whatever comes out of their mouth, it begins the grooming of our consciousness. It's like they start molding our consciousness to think a certain way, to be a certain way. And so I believe that part of what's happening right now, due to the CMEs that are coming in, is that it's forcing us to snap out of our what
Hmm.
I call our hypnosis.
Right.
'Cause we are under a mass hypnosis, and everyone is. That's why when you talk to people and they tell you, well, my awakening started in 2010. Well, my awakening started in 2020. What they're really telling you is that that's the year that I snapped out of my mass programming.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, it makes sense. And it makes sense. And I know in your book you talk about the lost history.
Oh, yes.
This,
Yeah.
I think this can go back to, and I'm gonna have you explain it because I don't know, I don't know the lost history enough to explain it, and I'd love for you to explain it to us. And I think many people will battle the what was taught and what we're explaining today. Can
Mhm.
you kind of go back into the lost history and explain a little bit more about what that is? Because as we find out, I tell people all the time, when I was a kid in the 70s and 80s, Native Americans were savages, and they were, it was we had to look at them as not good people. But then as you get older and you're around more Native Americans and you interview them and you realize, oh wow, these people were not savages, and we realized what really truly happened. So your thoughts on what is taught, and then what's the lost history that might shock people?
Well, you could say that history has been rewritten over and over multiple times,
Yeah.
uh, to the point where everything that we have been taught now is so much different than the actual authentic history. To give you an example, it's to think about how, like, when you have 30 kids in a class, and,
Mm-hmm.
and the teacher tells one of the kids something, and that kid tells the other kid something, but individually through the year, right? And then by the time it gets to the last kid, it's like it's
It's
totally
completely.
different.
Yeah.
And then that's the exact thing that happened in our world. And because our world was hijacked by, what you call fallen angels, negative entities,
Right.
uh, everything was rewritten by them in order to justify their means. The end justifies the means to justify and validate their agenda, right, of world domination. And so the original history, believe it or not, Tony, is actually stored deep within our genetics.
Hmm.
So if we want to know the truth about Tartaria, right, if we want to know the truth about Atlantis and about the suppressed history of our world, all we have to do is go within ourselves,
Wow.
and it'll be unveiled to us. And because of the fact that there are multiple timelines and alternative Earths where the history varied slightly different, everybody has a different history depending on which parallel Earth they're in. So we also have to, incorporate that into the equation that there are multiple Earths and each Earth has its own history. So it's all about like depending on where you are vibrating with, which Earth are you vibrating with, And so I choose to vibrate with the Earth that has a happy outcome, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. And in fact, somebody earlier today was saying, even if I'm having a bad day, I wake up in a bad mood, something bad happened, the attitude of gratitude is what changes it. And so it kind of is what you're saying is, even though life is tough, gratitude to the universe for even being here, which is a
Yeah.
miracle in itself that we're actually standing on this planet at this time is it's actually a really good thing, and you should be grateful for that. So
Exactly. 100%. Yeah.
well, what you said, and I agree with you, because I remember my mother when I was a teenager, her and her best friend in my hometown. It was a real small town in Kansas. They used to they thought that they would play a joke on the gossipers in town. And so they decided to tell a story about each other to other people and see by the time it got back to them, to see if the stories, how much they were changed. And it was completely different from when they started it. And they had a huge laugh about it. But it does show you how everybody's interpretation of a story gets changed in a short amount of time, let alone thousands of years. But do you think that ETs purposely tried to change the history, communicating it to later generations to hide the truth about things? Or is that more of human doing?
It's the first one. The humans we're at the bottom of the pole because we're at the bottom of the pole in terms of the dimensional light spectrum, right?
Right.
So the higher dimensions are always influencing what happens in the lower dimensions. And one of the reasons why this world has been experiencing such struggle in, dark ages is because of these negative ETs that took over the affairs of our planet during the times of Atlantis, which is what I call the Luciferian Anunnaki.
Right. Right.
And and so they have been inserting holographic inserts in the collective mind of humanity so
Hmm.
that certain things could be playing out. And these are such things as wars, famines, conquest,
Right.
slavery. All of that stuff was inserted into the collective. So yeah, definitely ETs are the ones that are actually manipulating things down here in the lower dimensions.
But what's that purpose? What is it? Is it so we don't?
An agenda.
Is it like a religion? How some religions suppress people so we don't feel free from control, or is that?
Well, they want to make sure that we don't discover how powerful we are.
Oh,
Yeah. So
okay.
that's probably the primary reason why they have kept us in a state of struggle for so many years, for thousands of years. And now we're actually living in a time where they have been neutralized in the higher
Mm.
dimensions. The forces of light have won the war in the higher frequencies or dimensions, densities. And so it's just a matter of time before we experience the results here in the third dimension.
I was going to ask you how much further down the chain here that human beings start to level up with the ETs, and will there be a galactic war between human species versus outer Earth species?
That's already been happening
Oh,
within
wow.
the private sector. Yeah, there, are these breakaway groups, secret space programs that
Yeah.
were also initiated by ETs in tandem in collaboration with Earth governments. So we have nefarious programs that originated in Nazi Germany and then later encompassed the shadow government here in the United States. And then we also have positive programs, but through these um, secret space programs, um, they have been using humans to aid the intergalactic wars
Hmm.
for the last 70, 80 years. And it's been a long struggle. We do have over 1,000 bases across the Milky Way.
Hmm. Wow.
Just alone in the Milky Way, not to mention we do have some settlements that we've established in other galaxies. So within the private sector, we are already thousands of years ahead of the general public. Yeah,
Wow.
which is phenomenal. That's why we're pushing for this disclosure. We don't want 50 years from now to see all this advanced technologies be given to the general public. We don't want to wait 100 years. We want it now, like within the next decade or less. And so that's what members of the positive programs are pushing. They're pushing for a faster disclosure than ever because that's what's going to end the enslavement of humanity. It's when they release the advanced technologies, like the
Mm.
free energy devices and stuff, the replicators, the hover cars, all that stuff is available within the private sector. So as long as the cabal is still in control, it's going to be very hard for the good guys to release the technology. But from what I've come to uncover is that the cabal is no longer in power. So yeah, they're just playing out their last script.
It always happens with people that are on the end of their era, as they say. It's a scramble to try to stay in power, but unfortunately, there's never been a society or an empire that lasts because of greed or infighting. And yeah, it sounds like it's a new era for all of us. So
Absolutely.
so
Yeah,
talk
so
about
we've been involved in the Space Force since the 1950s, by the way, 1940 something.
which I mean, if you think about it, we talk about this many times, and I'm sure you've heard it 100 times, that how fast, and this is how we know it wasn't just human beings and being smart, but how fast we went from 1900 to the year 2000 in 100 years. How fast we become tech savvy in space travel, in just technology. What are your thoughts on the human beings becoming so advanced and so fast? Was that with the help of the ETs, or it sounds like they probably didn't want us to grow that fast? Did it just leak or get out to humans and we took advantage of it?
Well, what ended up happening was members that were part of these secret space programs began to disassociate from the dark agenda of
Oh,
of the
okay.
Nefarious programs, and so there was a split in the ICC and also in Solar Warden where you had two factions up in space. You had the Earth Alliance, which are the group that realized that it would be beneficial to bring forth these technologies to the Earthlings. That the Earthlings need to be liberated from their 9 to 5 day-to-day matrix.
Mm.
You know, and of course, the other group who were working with the negative aliens were like, no, 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 no. We're supposed to keep these technologies away from the Earthlings. Let's keep them in a state of struggle and suffering because when they are in a state of struggle and suffering, they release this chemical hormone that empowers us, which is,
Mm.
what we call loosh. And so to the negative ETs who are in control of the nefarious programs, it was like cutting or ending their food supply by bringing abundance
Right.
to the earth, right? By ending struggle. And so the good guys decided to, fight a full out war up in space to eventually bring forth this technology to the rest of humanity. And since 2018, I believe that's when we pretty much were able to restore all the different colonies here within our solar system. So the lunar operating command, which was always in the form of the swastika, was blown up, and it's no longer in the form of the swastika because the Nazis were the first one to colonize the moon back in the 1940s.
Wow. Wow. And, we were talking about Star Wars, and I always say that Hollywood always predicts, or not even really predicts, but I feel that talks about the past and future.
Hmm.
And what you just said about how it's almost like the hormones or the things that we spray off our bodies, fear feeds them. But if you remember, I don't know if Shang-Chi, the Legends of the Ten Rings, did you watch that on the Marvel movie?
I didn't get a chance to watch that one.
So there was a dragon that was released from captive that they were holding because it would destroy the world or the universe. And what it finally got released, and what it did, it fed off of human souls to get more powerful. And so when you said that, it reminded me of that, how it's predicting, or what you were just talking about, how it fed off our souls of humans. So yeah, that's pretty interesting how Hollywood does. They give a lot of truth to who we were and where we're going. So
Well, it's so true. Everything that we see in Hollywood, I'd say about 80% of the films that they are putting out there, from Terminator to The Matrix,
right.
Star Wars, Lord of the Rings. I mean, Lord of the Rings was all about how the 10 kings of Atlantis wanted to dominate the entire planet. Well, who were these 10 kings? They were the son of Poseidon's
Right.
through a maiden, of course, we read in mythology. And then, of course, we see it in the Avengers. I've always believed that the writers of Marvel Comics and DC were actually insiders, because a lot of the concepts that these guys are introducing through these films, like the metaverse, like other dimensions,
Mm-hmm.
or the fact that we are not alone in the universe, the multiverse, all that stuff is now being proven through the avenues of quantum physics. And of course, unified field theory, M theory, and gravity field theory. And it's amazing how they're teaching us these things in a nonchalant way through these comics, which are now movies, by the way. Thank God that they started making movies about this, because 10 years ago, before the dawn of Marvel, there was no, you could say, nobody understood the metaverse.
Right.
And now, Doctor Strange, the second one came out in the multiverse of madness, and now Spider-Man in the metaverse. So now it's like they're introducing it. It's almost like they're trying to trigger those memories of ancient Earth, during the
Right.
time. Yeah.
Well, and I think most of us, and I'm sure you've questioned it even when you're a kid, and some of us question when we're adults that like, I just do not feel like I'm from this earth. I feel like I'm from another planet, or I don't feel like I belong here. Can you talk about the true history of the earth and the galactic origins of where we're from, for those people that feel that way? And then there's many that feel that's kind of, like you said, weird or crazy to even think those thoughts. But what is your take on our origins as humans, or are this being, or who we were before we came to this planet?
Well, if we are to understand the true history of the Earth, we have to start thinking in terms of multidimensionality.
Hmm.
So right now we are existing in a third dimensional version of the Earth. But what I've come to uncover is that the Earth once existed in a higher state of reality, in the Lyra system. It was known as Planet Avion. That was the original Earth. So I realized that a lot of the advanced civilizations throughout the universe that are human-like, that have human features, that look like us, where we look like them,
Mm-hmm.
they all originated on the original Earth, which was Earth in the eighth dimension. So they all broke away from this planet when this planet was existing in a higher level of reality. And so if you want to get technical, the original history of Earth goes back to the dawn of human civilizations in our universe, which
Wow.
which is going back to Lyra. And then, of course, our current Earth came from a planet that was known as Tiamat. That was known as the Tiamat Earth, which was 4 times the size.
Hmm.
That planet existed about 4 million years ago. Well, according to my research, planet Tiamat Earth was the reincarnating planet Avion that was actually captured by our solar system at the peak of the Galactic Wars.
Wow.
It developed into a beautiful, beautiful planet, which of course later I've come to find out that it was also destroyed when the Galactic Wars reached our solar system. And then part of that planet became the asteroid belt, and then a chunk of that planet became us. So gradually evolved into our world and stuff. And so the true history of the Earth origin comes from light when our planet existed in a higher dimension. So just like how we've been dropping in dimensions, our planet has also been dropping in densities.
Mm-hmm.
So, Atlantis, we hear about Atlantis. Well, Atlantis has only been around for 100,000 years or a little bit longer. And then we hear about Lemuria. Well, that's been around for 2 million years. Well, I mean, that's when
Right.
they existed 2 million years ago. They're not around anymore, right? Perhaps a parallel Earth where they were never infiltrated, they're still around. But we're not living on that timeline. We're living in the timeline where the original civilization, that was about 40 million years ago. That was known as the civilization of Polaria. And then even after that, we have the civilization of Hyperborea. And Hyperborea preceded Lemuria by millions of years. So according to the fossil record, all the evidence is there that advanced pre-diluvial civilizations have been here for millions and millions of years. And that's going to be a huge, huge truth shocker to a person who is unaware of all this stuff. Because most people are under the impression that we've only been here for 6,000 years.
Right.
And those are just the religious people. And then you have the other camp of people who believe that we evolved gradually from the bottom up from
Right.
animals,
Right.
from apes. But
Right.
as I introduce in my book, it's actually the other way around. We've been devolving from the top down, from the angelic kingdom. So that's what we humans are. We are the final manifestation of the original race that originated in Lyra.
Because I've heard people say we evolved from apes, which were what 98%, you know, matching for like DNA, and then I've heard we came from the sea also, and so it is funny maybe but I I've always wondered, it's like it is how Neanderthals, and then Homo sapiens, and how we evolved, but if we've only evolved over like that, a few thousand years, it just doesn't make sense, when it comes to the religious part of it. Um, I mean, that's a nice fantasy, or a nice magic trick, I think, for some people. But yeah, there's no way we can't disprove dinosaurs and everything else, because some religious people say that dinosaurs were just false or just fake, made up, and I'm like, there's just no way. I mean, there's too much evidence.
Well, that's what the dinosaurs that are the result of the reptilians trying to take over our planet 65 million years ago.
Well, they almost did.
Yeah, first came into our solar system. They wanted the solar system to be inhabited and colonized by reptoids,
Right.
and then so the dinosaurs were created by the reptilians to keep away the existence of humanity. And then, of course, what the Galactic Federation of Worlds did is they sent a huge asteroid to destroy that project in order to reseed the planet with human-like beings. And that's when, the first evidence of human civilization arose millions and millions of years ago.
How did you get to be a part of the galactic, or become a galactic ambassador?
I was told in several dreams in my early 20s when I was communicating with my galactic self. My galactic self is part of the Council of the
Mm-hmm.
Syrian Council. So, in a different avatar, I'm one of the 12 that oversees um, the you could say that oversees the events that are taking place in our universe and also on this planet. So when I was told that I was sent here as a liaison between the galactics
Right.
and Earthlings, so I was part of a program, an off-world program that was where my mother was a surrogate, and they impregnated her with advanced celestial genetics,
Hmm.
which come from Sirius. My father was Kael, the king of Sirius B. And so I was told that I would one day come to understand who I was as a mediator, as a person who was going to help bridge the gap between the cosmic and galactic community and the Earth, to reinstate the Earth back into the galactic community. So that's why they gave me the title of the ambassador, cosmic ambassador. But then I was also told, Tony, that I wasn't the only ambassador, that there were millions of ambassadors. And I was like, whoa. and they did say that only 2% or 3% of them are aware of their title,
I was
and
going to
they're
ask, yeah.
and the 90 unfortunately 96% of them were unaware that they were ambassadors as well. To give you an example, Elizabeth April, she's an ambassador. She's one of those that fall in the small percentage that is aware of her mission and role here to help bridge the gap between the galactic community and the Earthlings. Another ambassador would be what's her name? I forget her name, but there's just so many of them that are actually in the limelight. Oh, she goes by the last name Rose. Forget it.
Amber
What's
Rose. No, I was going to say Amber Rose, but I don't think that's it.
no, that's uh forget her. Something Rose. Anyway, she has a pretty big following as well. She talks to Valnek, so she gets her
Oh,
information from
okay.
Valnek. You know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, now I can't. Yeah, I know who you're talking about now. Yeah.
Yeah, I forget her. Oh, Megan Rose, that's her name. She's another ambassador. Um,
I was going to
so
say, what is the responsibilities, even now that you know, but what the people that don't know, there's still a responsibility, but how do you take that role and do good by it?
Well, we took an oath before incarnating in our human avatars. We
Got it.
took an
Okay.
oath, and so that's why some of us who are aware of our mission, we came in with full understanding of what we're doing here in the earth, at this time. So that's how we know we're trying to execute our mission by respecting and honoring the oath that we took, which is known as the Covenant of Palador. Yeah, so that is the covenant that the forces of light, or what we call the ground crew here, belongs to. And every star seed, every volunteer that's here in human form, all 7+ million, whether they know it or not, they all work with the Emerald Order. They all work with the Seal of Palador. They just don't remember. So part of my reason as an ambassador is to help others remember who they are and how powerful they are.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And how do you convince? Because even though you're an ambassador and I mean, you look good, you sound good, your intentions are good, but how do you convince people? And especially nowadays, I think because of technology and social media and everything else, even though it does help connect us to people, there's so much information out there. Sometimes it's hard to believe everything you hear. So how do you get the word out, and how do you not necessarily convince, but make people understand your intentions and what you were sent here for?
Well, I was sent here to gather the tribes. The tribes are the star nations. Some people call them 144,000, which is just a metaphor describing gene expression in hertz.
Right.
So from the moment I started writing my book, I was told that, eventually I was gonna connect and network with others. And so the way I see it is, if they are meant to resonate with the information, they will gravitate towards my work. If
Mm,
not, and they won't, and that's okay with me. Not everyone's meant to resonate or gravitate
right.
towards this work. And I respect everybody's decisions. I'm not out there trying to gain a huge following. I just all I want to do is just help others remember the mission. And then that's it. That's part of the reason why I'm here. And of course, to help awaken the Earth Terrans, which are the sleeping masses, uh, to raise their consciousness in the understanding that we are part of a greater community of
Right.
light that is spread out throughout the multiverse.
Yeah, and it must be working because you're a best-selling author, and people are purchasing your books. I've seen them pack a house for you to listen to your words. So I know people are really appreciating what you're bringing to the table, and I'm hoping the council is happy with your work. I'm definitely going to have you back. I have about 5 to 10 minutes left, so I do want to ask you this before we go, because it's not coming, it's here. The conflict with artificial intelligence. I mean, here in Hollywood, I'm in Burbank, so even the writer's strike, one of the biggest things they held out on was, AI, using AI in entertainment. I mean, there's so many things. You go into grocery stores, there's self checkouts, and even in Whole Foods, all you got to do is hold your hand up and you pay with your groceries with your hand now. There's so many things that are coming so fast. What should be concerned about? Like we talked about with the Terminator, how it looks so far fetched, but now it's here. Artificial intelligence is here.
Well, it's part of the prophecies. That's what John the Revelator describes in the book Revelation as the emergence of the Antichrist.
Mm.
The Antichrist is AI, it's artificial intelligence, because in the end it goes against all life.
Wow.
So you have two principles in the cosmos. You have the Christed principles, and this has nothing to do with religion. It has to do with the idea of seeing everything in existence as part of the whole, a greater whole. We're part of a
Right.
bigger organism. Everything is interconnected and everything is sacred as a result of that. That is known as the Christ principle. Well, we also have the Antichrist principle, which is exemplified by the Archon energy of the Ahriman, the Asuras, what we study in the Gnostic texts. That was further elaborated by no other than Rudolf Steiner and the Theosophy schools of thought. So the Archon energy, which is the energies of the Antichrist, which is anti-life, that's what the Antichrist is, anti-life, it goes against all life forms, has always expressed itself through the machine, through AI, because it was never allowed to have any biological form or avatar. It was forbidden in the High Council of the Order of the Ancient of Days, and the Order of the Eternal of Days, which are orders that are overseeing the development of the many multiple universes. And so in order for that thing to seek expression in the physical, it had to create a machine.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's the difference. And so now we're seeing it emerge more so than ever. But again, it's just the prophecies being fulfilled. But we do know, based on a lot of channeled information, based on my own downloads, and also as confirmed by ancient prophecies, is that there will be a bifurcation where as the beast becomes more prevalent and more powerful, and begins to make itself known to our world, right before it takes over the world, it will rise. We will see it try to rise and take over our world. It's already happening. But there's going to be a great solar flash that's going to nuke it like an EMP
Hmm.
and destroy the entire infrastructure of the AI system, which is the Antichrist. So there's going to be a split in timelines. Those that choose to take the mark of the beast, which is transhumanism, are going to go into the dystopian, technocratic, New World Order AI timeline. And those that choose not to get the mark of the beast, in other words, those that choose not to go transhuman,
Right.
are going to go into the positive Earth ascending timeline. And so on the positive Earth ascending timeline, we're going to have thousands of years of peace where there is going to be no negativity.
Nice.
And the other timeline is going to be the AI technocratic dystopia, where you're going to have AI cyborgs, and it's going to be an oppressed world, right? A very dark world. But at the end of 1,000 years, those two timelines merge together for one final clash. And then that determines the outcome of the multiverse, which is what they call the last battle. But, at one point, this war with the machine included and encompassed many universes. This is a battle that's been going on for almost 400 billion years, my friend, even before
Mm.
the inception of our own local universe.
Right.
This is the machine involving other universes that existed prior to our universe, who have been engaged in it, has been going on for billions of years. And so this is the final showdown for all that war, for the multiverse.
Well, again, in Marvel, you had oh my God, his name is skipping my mind. The guy that the end games, the main guy
Thanos.
yeah, Thanos. It's
Yeah.
kind of like him. He's going world to world and just destroying and wiping out half the planet, population. Kind of, again, it reminds me of many things that we see on screen at home and at the movies. So, yeah, and I think it is. It's people like you that are waking people up, and I really appreciate you doing that. And the book, please, people go out and pick up Our Cosmic Origin. What was your hope of people taking away from this book before we get out of here? What was that hope that you wrote this book?
Just to trigger memories of them living in a galactic world, memories of other dimensions, memories of other universes, and most importantly, understanding that we are it, we are what everyone's been waiting for. Um, but overall, I was informed that my book was going to be a catalyst that was going to act as a initiator
Hmm.
for those that are ready for this information because it is dense. If you are serious about this information, it will definitely help activate memories of who you were before you became human. And then that's one of the main reasons why I wrote that book is to help others remember why we came here. And so that we could just finish the job and celebrate our victory over darkness and bring forth a new era, not only for the earth, but for the galactic and cosmic community as a result of that. And
Well, thank you so much. And where do people go? Is it cosmicarts.com? Is that
no, I'm no longer part of the Cosmic Arts.
okay?
I do have a website called ourcosmicorigin.com.
Okay, cosmicorigins.com. We'll get that in the notes so people can follow you and buy the book on Amazon or wherever else. I'm sure books are sold. Is the website the best place to go to purchase the book?
To get the new edition, which has been edited once again, and I added a new chapter. Yes, you want to read that last chapter because that last chapter talks about what happens after the ascension, which is very prophetic and very interesting. But also, you'll have access to all my platforms. I do only have one YouTube channel, despite the multiple pirated channels.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
It's under the real Ismael Perez. So if you go to the real Ismael Perez, you'll be able to access my official YouTube channel. And I go live at like 3 times a week, always, disclosing new intel and mind-blowing information.
Perfect. Well, Ishmael, thank you so much. And I hope you come back. We had another hour of questions for you, but I know time goes so fast and people love what you do, and I'm enjoying getting to know you and your work, and I appreciate you. Like I always say, go out and do the work that I don't have time to do. So thank you for doing that.
I also wanted to let people know that I'm going to be at the Los Angeles Conscious Live Expo.
Yes.
So make sure you guys get your tickets now. I believe it's only $50 if you buy them now, but at the door they're going to be 60. And last time I was there, I had almost 200 people that didn't make the door.
Wow.
So the door was closed when the entire room was filled. So make sure that you guys get your tickets now. And I will see you guys at Conscious Life Expo this February. All right.
Perfect. And I will see you there too. And thank you so much, Ismael, for being here. And we appreciate you. And everybody, thank you for joining us and being a part of Truth Be Told. I'm here every Friday. Robert Hensley on Monday at 3 with Minuteman Report. Bonnie Burkard on Wednesday with Truth Be Told Transformation. And for the Club Paranormal Network. You can watch us on Roku channel, Parapod TV, and also on our YouTube channel. Please subscribe and please leave amazing comments for us and share this show. And also listen to us on our podcast on Apple, iHeart, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. We're there. So appreciate you. Until next time, I'll see you. This is Tony Sweet with Truth Be Told. This has been another episode of Truth Be Told. Thank you so much for watching. Recorded live at UBN Go Studios in Burbank, California. Join us on social media. Facebook, Truth Be Told Radio. Instagram, Truth Be Told Paranormal. Go to Truth Be Told Worldwide for more information on upcoming shows.